how Oz feels. Hello, hello. Oh wow, it's on. It's on. You see me? Perfect.
Here. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to begin our service on page 11, Lechuner Anana.
Lechuner Anana Ladonai Nari Alatzor Yishenu Nekama Fanav Bitoda Bizmiro Nari Alo Kiel Gadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Al Kol Elohim Asher Biado Mecharei Aretz V'ta'afot Harim Lo Asher Lo Hayam Vehu Asahu Asher Lo Hayam Vehu Asahu Ve'yabesh et Yadav Yatzaru Ve'yabesh et Yadav Yatzaru.
Vayim Shanakud Bedor Va'omar Am Tohev Levavhem Vehem Lo Yadu Derachai Asher Nishbati V'api Im Yavon El Menuchati. Shir Lanai Shir Chadash, page 13.
Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo Basru Miyom Liyom Yeshuato Sapru Vagoyim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Nifleotav Ki Gadol Adonai Umlal Meod Norahu Al Kol Elohi Hayayay Ki Kol Elohi Ha'amim Elelim Va'adonai Shamayim Asad Hod V'Hadar Le'efanav Oz V'Tiferet B'Mikdasho Havu Ladonai Mishpachot Ha'amim Havu Ladonai Kavod Ve'oz Havu Ladonai Kavod Ve'oz Havu Ladonai Kevod Shemo
Se'u Mincha Uva Chatzorotav.
השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, חילו מפניו כל הארץ, אמרו בגויים, אדוני מלך, הבטיחון תבל, בעל תימות, ידין עמים במשרים, ילה לה לה לה, ילה לה לה לה, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ, יירם הים, יירם הים, Yiramayam umlo, Yiramayam, Yiramayam, Yiramayam umlo. Ya'alo Sedai, V'chol asher bo, Ya'alo Sedai. Hay, ay, 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 Ya'alo Sedai, V'chol asher bo, Ya'alo Sedai. Hay, ay, 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 Az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar, Az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar, Az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar, Az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar. Yifnei Adonai kiva, kiva
Yishbot
mishpatav.
tevel b'tzedek, ve'amim be'emunato. Page 15. Adonai malach tagel haaretz, yismechuim rabim, anan v'ravel sevivav, tzedek u'mishpat b'chon tiso. Or Zarua on the page, bottom of page 16.
Or zarua la tzadik hu yishralev simcha. Or zarua la tzadik hu yishralev simcha. Or zarua la tzadik hu yishralev simcha. Hu yishralev simcha. Or zarua la tzadik hu yishralev simcha. Hu yishralev simcha.
Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Page 17.
Mizmor shiru ladonai shir chadash ki niflaot asa hoshia loya mi'ino uzroa kodsho ay ay hodia Adonai Yeshuato le'enei hagoyim gilat tzidkato zachar chasdo ve'emunato Leveit Yisrael, Yalai la 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 la, la la la, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la, Yalai la 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 la.
Yifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz. Yishbot tevel b'tzedek, ve'amim b'mei sharim. Page 19. Adonai malach yirgezu amim, yoshev kruvim tanuhu ta'aretz, Adonai b'tzion gadol, v'ramhu al kol ha'amim. Moshe Rabbeinu. Eloheinu Adonai. Romamu on the bottom of page 20.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu ay ay ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
We rise for Mizmor LeDavid, page 21.
Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai bnei Elim, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod va'ot היי היי היי, הבו לאדוני, כבוד שמו השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד ירים. אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, היי היי היי, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון, וסריון כמו בן רעמי, היי היי היי, כל אדוני חוצה לבות אש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יחיל עיילות, ויחשוף יערות ובהיכלו, כולו אומר כבוד, איי איי איי, אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. איי 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 Yeah, 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 la 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 la, yeah la 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 la, yeah la la la, yeah la 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 la, yeah la 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 la, yeah la 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 la, yeah la la la, yeah la 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 la.
Please be seated. We continue with Lecha Dodi, page 23.
Lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmiyanu. El ha-meyuchad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet ve'letila. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekor haberacha mirosh mikeden nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzei, מתוך אפיך רב לך שבט, בעמק אבך והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. התנערי מערפקו מלבשי בגדי, תפארתך מעל יד בן ישי, בית הלחמי קרבה אל נפשי, על נפשי גאלה. lecha dodi likrat kahala, pnei Shabbat, pnei kabela. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. lecha dodi likrat kahala, פני שבת, פני קבלה. לא תבושי ולא תחלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו אני עמי וניתך עיר עצילה. lecha דודי דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת, פני לקבלה, והיו לשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמסוס חתן עתן הכלה, לך דודי דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי, על יד איש בן פרסי ונשמחה ונגילה, לך דודי דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, לך דודי דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, היי היי יאללה לה לה לה, 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 יאללה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, לך דודי דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. We continue with Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, page 27.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Mad Galu in the middle of the page.
מה גדלו מעשיך מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, הללויה, הללויה. מה גדלו מעשיך, הללויה, הללו. מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, הללויה, הללויה.
Sadiq Tamar, page 28.
צדיק תמה יפרח כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא הבלטה בו.
Page 29. Adonai malach geut lavesh lavesh. Edotecha nemnu meod levetecha nava kodesh Adonai laorech yamim. Mourner's Kaddish, page 30. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'yalma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uv'yomechon. Uv'chayedecha beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei d'kudsha rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I'd like to invite our bar mitzvah, Az, to join us on the bima. We rise for the Baruch Hu. Page 39.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Please be seated.
El Chai v'Kayam
No.
Tamidim.
Baruch Adonai.
He's going to pray this part, and then in 1 second you're going to start there.
El Chai v'Kayam.
El Chai v'Kayam Tamidim L'Chaleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai HaMa'arif Aravim.
Amen. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavatecha.
V'ahavtecha al tesir mimeni leolamim. Baruch Ata Adonai Ohevamo Yisrael.
Amen. Shema.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol meodecha, l'chayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher Anochi mitzavecha, chayom alevecha, v'shimatam levanecha, v'dibarta bam,
V'shivtecha v'beitecha, v'uletecha v'derech, v'shoftecha uv'kumecha, ושרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמע תשמע זאת. ויאמר לנו.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Amen.
Emet ve'emuna kol zot ve'kayam aleinu. Ki hu Adonai Eloheinu va'en zulato va'anachnu Yisrael amo va'anachnu Yisrael amo va'anachnu Yisrael amo. Umachuto, Britzun Kivlu Alechem, Moshe Uvene Yisrael, Lacha Anu, Shimra, Veshimcha Rabba V'Amru, Chulam.
Before.
Mi,
Chamocha, Ha'elim, Adonai, Mihi Chamocha, Nehedar B'Kodesh Nora, Tehilot, O Seifele, Nora Tehilot, O Seifele.
Malchutecha, Ra'u Vanecha, Bokeh Ayam Lifnei Moshe, Ze'eli Anu V'Amru.
Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל.
Amen. Hashkivenu, page 45. Hashkivenu. Shmor tzeitenu.
ושמור צאצאנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם ופרוש עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפרש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Amen. Oz is going to be joined by his brother and sister for the Shumru. Please rise, page 46.
Come on up.
Come on, guys.
You're doing great. You're really fast. You can slow
Slow down.
Yeah. Other mom can keep up with you.
Ready? Can you see? Right there. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת
לדורותם ברית עולם.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
יהיו בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו
בני ישראל
את השבת
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We continue Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתגרש מרבה ים עדיברה קירותי וימלוך מלכותי בחייכון וביומך ובחידךו בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
Amen.
יהי
Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Maya Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא יתהדר יתעלה יתהלל שמי דקדושה
בריחו
לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה
תשבחתה
תשבחתה
ונחמתה תמירם בעלמה.
אמרו
Amen.
We continue silently with the Amidah on page 47. continue with Me'en Sheva, page 53. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa vayishpot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi vaykadesh oto ki hivo shavat mikol melachto Asher bara Elohim la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora, El Elyon, konei shamayim va'aretz. Magen avot bidvaro, mechaye metim b'mamaro, ha'el hakadosh she'en kamohu, haminiach le'amo, b'yom Shabbat kodsho, kivam ratza lehaniach lahem, kivam ratza lehaniach lahem, lefanav na'avod bi'irav v'fachad, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעון הברכות אל ההודעות אדון השלום מקדש השבת ברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה לעמדו שני עונג זכר למעשה Lamase Bereshit. Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, Gritzevi, Nuchatenu, Kadeshenu b'mitzotecha v'tein chalkenu b'toratecha, Sabeinu mituvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libenu le'ovdecha, be'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu, b'hava uvratzon Shabbat kodshecha, v'yanuchuva Yisrael mekadeshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Yitkadah Shmerabah.
Amen.
V'yamadi v'rakiu tevim nikmachotei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol bet Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kiri v'imru Amen.
Amen. Shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam le'almei almaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yiman v'yitnaseh yitah le yitah al shemei d'kusha
Brichu.
le'elam mikol Birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amara be'alma v'imru Amen. Titkabaz lotachon uva utachon dechol Yisrael kada uvachon divishmaya v'imru
Amen.
He shalama rabba meshamaya v'chayin alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru
Amen.
O say shalom b'imrama huya say shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Jeff, what,
Hold on a second. We're going to give you the Kiddush cup.
I mean, I like your approach, right? Let's get this
Places to be.
done. But we need the Kiddush grape juice first. We're going to wait till people have the grape juice, okay?
I think it's just this and the later, right? That's it.
It's not Merlot, so I would recommend taking it.
I don't think I'm doing it.
But you might have to do it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing it.
You have as much time in the spotlight as everyone's here to see you. So.
I think so.
Okay, cool.
We'll see. I'll slow down. Okay.
Know your stuff.
Remember, drink until the very end. Page 55.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafem.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher knisanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'achava uritzon hinhilanu v'zocher lashon
Bereshi, ki hu yom techila, v'mikro kodesh, sechem tzion Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, michoamim, v'shava kodshecha, v'yava uvratzon, Hinchiltanu, Adonai, Mekadesh, HaShabbat, L'chaim, Amen.
L'chaim. We continue with Aleinu on page 56. Oh, I'm sorry. Please be seated. Oz, go ahead and sit.
He prepared already.
Go sit with Mommy. Hopefully many of you know that this marks the anniversary of Kristallnacht, and as we did last year, Marvin Stern, whose parents were survivors of the Shoah, of the Holocaust, gave a very stirring Devar Torah on the subject of Kristallnacht, and he was gracious enough to offer to speak again this evening on this year's anniversary. Marvin?
Thank you, Rabbi. Oz, in honor of your bar mitzvah, I dedicate this Devar Torah to the following. Eitan Yeholomi, age 12. Yagil Yaakov, age 12. Erez Calderon, age 12. Alma Or, age 13. Noam Avigdori, age 12. Yuval Engel, age 11. Gal Goldstein, age 11. Hila Rotem Shoshani, age 13. Gali Tarshansky, age 13, and all other Israeli hostages. 21 years ago, I was asked to speak at Congregation Beth Shalom about my work at the Office of the Insurance Commissioner on behalf of Washington State's Holocaust survivors and families of Holocaust victims seeking to recover the proceeds of unpaid Holocaust-era insurance policies they or their families may have had. At that time, when I spoke to students and other groups, I usually described my work as being part of the final chapter of the Holocaust, that being the effort to seek a kind of closure for many survivors. Israel was then in the midst of the Second Intifada, and Jews were under attack, not just in Israel, but were experiencing physical attacks in Germany. Synagogues were being burned in France, and there was a need for armed guards for Jewish leaders and institutions in Italy and elsewhere. Talking about my Holocaust restitution work, therefore, seemed insignificant, and therefore, instead I shared some random yet related thoughts that were then on my mind. And so I asked Rabbi Herber if I could share my current thinking on this 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht. When I worked at the Anti-Defamation League, there was a growing concern about Holocaust denial. But what we have been experiencing since then has been much more insidious, with Holocaust terminology and imagery being used against Jews in the most obscene and inflammatory ways. Let's take a minute to review a few historical milestones along the way to where we got to today.
In July 1938, President Roosevelt called for an international conference in Evian, France, to discuss the growing Jewish refugee crisis intensified by the German takeover of Austria. Delegates from the 32 countries in attendance formally expressed sorrow over the growing number of refugees and deportees, boasted of their nation's traditional hospitality, and lamented that their nations were unable to do more in the present situation. Canada's Prime Minister at the time wrote in his diary that, in his view, nothing was to be gained by creating an internal problem in an effort to meet an international one. Several countries stated they wanted no traitors or intellectuals, code words for Jews. Australia said it had no racial problems and did not want to create one by bringing in Jewish refugees. A few months later, on January 25, 1939, the German Foreign Ministry issued a memorandum titled "The Jewish Question as a Factor in Foreign Policy in 1938, which stated in part, "The Jewish emigre is the best propaganda for Germany's Jewish policy. The influx of Jews arouses the resistance of the native populations in all parts of the world and thus provides the best propaganda for Germany's policy towards the Jews. Wherever the stream of Jewish migrants has poured in, a clear increase in anti-Semitism has been recorded. It must therefore be an aim of German foreign policy to strengthen the wave of anti-Semitism." Skipping ahead 36 years, in 1975, the United Nations passed its infamous "Zionism is Racism" resolution. Finally, in a 2002 meeting of the UN Commission on Human Rights, Algeria's ambassador to the UN in Geneva claimed in his opening statement that Kristallnacht repeats itself daily against the ghettoized Palestinian people. He called on the international community to end this night in fog, the name of an early French Holocaust documentary inflicted on the Palestinian population by the inheritors of the Shoah. The Syrian ambassador called on the international community to stop the genocide of Palestinian children. And then there was October 7th, 2023, when the largest number of Jews were murdered in one day since the Holocaust. On October 29, we learned of several hundred people storming a flight arriving in Dagestan, Russia, from Tel Aviv looking for Israeli passengers. We can only imagine what would have happened had the rioters found any Israelis or Jews. And in a variation of incidents repeated on too many college campuses in US cities and in other countries, Jewish students at Cornell were afraid to leave their dorm rooms after calls for Jews to be raped and murdered were published on social media. One former Cornell student said the kosher dining hall on campus was on lockdown and Jewish students were hiding in their dorms. Because we are in a house of worship, I will not repeat the language of those messages. Most of the demonstrations in our streets call for the destruction of Israel and death to Jews, for that is what, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free means. Since October 7th, there's been a sharp rise of anti-Semitic incidents in France, Germany, the UK, and the United States. Clearly, to many, we Jews got what we deserved on October 7th. Like many of you, I can't stop watching and reading about the events of October 7 and was struck by the number of Holocaust survivors who were among those killed and kidnapped and otherwise impacted by the Hamas attack. What would I possibly have said to my survivor parents who now are both gone? When I was a teaching assistant at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, the instructor I worked with, Dr. Zev Mankiewicz, would suggest to his students that the ultimate lesson of the Holocaust for Jews is never to be in a situation where nothing we do will make a difference, escape, compliance, or resistance. It is clear that many nations of the world believe Israel does not have the same right, no obligation, to protect her citizens as any other nation in the world would do, and without question would be supported by the world community for doing so, the obvious current example being Ukraine. According to Michal Kotler-Wunsch, Israel's anti-Semitism envoy, the anti-Semitism that fueled Hamas's atrocities in Israel is also driving much of the international response to the attacks. Dr. Mankiewicz also suggested that we do not yet know the final outcome of the Holocaust, by which he meant how it will all turn out. At the time, he was referring to the unknown fate of the millions of Jews then still in the Soviet Union, security threats to Israel, and assimilation in the United States. At the time, such a prescription seemed much too pessimistic and perhaps overly dramatic. But today, looking back on that warning, makes one almost wistful, considering the much greater threats to Israel and Jews in the world today. One of the goals of Zionism was to be a place of refuge for Jews. Never again would Jews be powerless to determine our fate. And while no one would argue that Israel or Jews are powerless at present, we must at least consider this aspect of Israel as a place of safe refuge for all Jews to be somewhat diminished. But if not Israel, then where? Last Friday, Israel's National Security Council and Foreign Ministry issued a rare announcement that Israelis should reconsider traveling to any destination in the world at this time due to an increase in expressions of anti-Semitism and violence against Israelis and Jews, including countries for which there is no travel warning due to a terrorist threat. According to Haaretz columnist Anshel Pfeffer, I didn't think anti-Semitism was a threat to diaspora Jews 5 weeks ago. I think it is now. But it's not easy to understand that threat. What we are seeing now in the West among well-meaning, well-educated, progressive, and predominantly young people is a moral blindness that denies both the humanity of Israelis to such a degree that they have totally missed the genocidal attack of October 7th and the ability to totally ignore the fact that fellow Jewish citizens living right beside them, including friends and colleagues, are being targeted by exactly the same hatred. They, of course, emphatically deny that they are anti-Semites and would never think of themselves as such. But unwittingly, they have succumbed to the hatred that cannot speak its name and become apologists and enablers. A new era of threats against Jews has begun, and that's something we have to begin to understand. Yesterday, the JTA released a poll that 3/4 of American Jews fear the Israel-Hamas war is making their communities less safe. In 1942 and 43, when the first reports of the mass murder of Jews reached the world did nothing. We did not know. What could we do? And the American Jewish community did very little. This time, the world knows and is blaming the victims. Israel is at fault because of the occupation, or because Israel exists, or because Jews exist. According to Kotler-Wunsch, American Jews need to speak out when others try to draw a moral equivalence between a democratic Jewish nation defending its citizens and a genocidal terrorist organization whose barbarity is evident to the world. Each spring, we read in Parshat Shmini that Nadav and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, the high priest, offered a strange fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them, and there came forth a fire from before the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. The Torah then goes on to say that after the death of his sons, Aaron was silent. And the question is asked, was Aaron's silence an appropriate response? What might Aaron have said, and to whom? The message to us is clear. We have lost and are losing too many of our children, and we cannot afford to be silent. Silence today is not appropriate. We know what needs to be said and to whom, including our families and friends and neighbors and co-workers and elected officials and journalists. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said in 1965, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Earlier this week, I watched a speech by a Jewish member of the British House of Lords who shared that he has a son in Israel serving in the IDF and a daughter who lives in London and wears a Star of David necklace when she goes out on Saturday night in North London. He then shared that he is more concerned about the safety of his daughter than his son and asked, how did things get to this point? But at the end of his speech, he reminded his listeners of the following verses in Yirmiyahu. Thus saith the Lord, a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus saith the Lord, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there is a reward for your labor, declares the Lord. They shall return from the enemy's land, and there is hope for your future, declares the Lord. Your children shall return to their country. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who frees the captives. Ken yehi ratzon, Shabbat shalom, Am Yisrael chai.
Thank you, Marvin and Yirker Koch, for that beautiful and important of our Torah. We rise for Aleinu on page 56.
When I get to here, I turn around. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon
Hakol, la'tei gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech Malchei HaMalchim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehu noteh shamayim ve'yoser haaretz, Moshe v'yekaro b'shamayim imal, U'shchinatu zo, v'gavhei meromim. Hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu et zulato, kakatu b'torato, V'yadata hayom, v'hoshevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal, v'al haaretz mitachat einod, al kein kavalecha Adonai Eloheinu.
Kakatuv b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch
le'olam
le'olam
va'ed, v'ne'emar, l'chaya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. In the coming week, we will observe the following yard sites: Fanny Berger, Helene Bynes, Astrid Block, Barry Brenner, Marcus Dishman, Joel David Eisenberg, Shirley Glazer Arshan, Harry Grashin, Archie Katz, Myrna Frand, Klaus Backel, Pauline Kritzer, Saul Kurfürst, Frida Jeanette Lampert, Norman Lawrence, John Paul Leahy, Zadie Levin, Daniel Lewis, Alice Nosson, Panina Rappaport, Joel Norman Rawson, Muriel Schuffler, Faye Scherer, David Seidel, Mamie Silverman, Michelle Sloan, Netta Sonkin, Hyman Stahl, Miriam Spiro, Paul Turlenchamp, Milton Teeger, Cherney Jane Traub, and Rachel Wilhoit. We also observe the yahrzeit of all service personnel who were either killed in action or who went missing in action and who have a yahrzeit to this week. Mourner's Kaddish, page 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayedecha beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach leolam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemeid kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I'd like to invite Lindsay O'Neill, one of our officers, to share announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. My words won't be nearly as stirring. And I just want to say Mazel Tov to the entire Cohn family on what an exciting weekend. Opportunities to come together here in our Jewish community. Wednesday, November 15th at 11:30 a.m. Enjoy lunch, conversation, and the film Everything is Illuminated at the Daytimers Fall Lunch and Film Series here in the Feinberg Social Hall. Registration is available on ShulCloud. The H&T Needlecraft Affinity Group is knitting beanies for Israeli soldiers every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. here. You can join them or make them at your convenience. Just contact Aviva in the office for instructions. Havdalah and Bunko Night is being held on Saturday, November 18th at 7 p.m. in the upper foyer. Join them join the next chapter for drinks, treats, and bunko, led by Josh Niehaus, and you can register for that on ShulCloud as well. Join the next, we had one last night, Barnaby Point Town Hall session on Sunday, November 19th at 10 a.m., here to learn more about the new initiative with JDS. That same day, teens are invited to join the HNT Teen Seahawks Watch Party and Tailgate with inflatable games, friends, and game day grub on Sunday, November 19th at 1 p.m. in the social hall. And there's also a call out to join the Legal and Governance Committee. They're looking for folks to come join us, making a meaningful impact by helping our leadership scrutinize contracts, insurance policies, contribute to governance enhancement for increased transparency and accountability. We really hope that there are more folks that can help out with that. And lastly, to help us keep our synagogue tidy and beautiful, please take everything with you as you leave this evening. That is it. Shabbat Shalom.
You may have noticed the blue ribbon on my lapel, and Josh has one, and Marvin has one on his. I bought blue ribbons. They are in a bowl on the table that is facing the entrance to the sanctuary, and you are welcome to take a ribbon. Please limit it to one ribbon a person. I just became a part of the first ever rabbinic cabinet for Magen David Adom, and while the ribbons are free, I want to ask that if you haven't yet made a donation to Magen David Adom, that you don't have to, but it would really mean a lot if after Shabbat you were to go on the American Friends of Magen David Adom and make a contribution of whatever amount you feel comfortable with, because Magen David Adom, like many organizations in Israel, really on the front lines of helping Israelis during this current crisis. So please take a pin and make your first contribution or make another contribution to Magen David Adom. Thank you. We're going to conclude with Yigdal on page 62.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, ניצב יהודה אל מציאותו,
אחד ויחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו. אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו. קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון ואת ראשית לראשיתו. הינו אדון עולם לכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו ומלכותו. שופט נבואתו נתנו, אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את אמונתו. תורת אמת נתן לעמו על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו. צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו. ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפדות מחכה קץ ישועתו. מתים יחיה אל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו. מתים יחיה אל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו. Shabbat Shabbat shalom, mazal tov. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you tomorrow.